The pink slip trembled in my hands as I sat in my Honda Civic outside the corporate building in downtown Phoenix. After 7 years of 60-hour weeks, missed family dinners, and sacrificing my dreams for someone else's vision, I was officially unemployed at 34. My name is Maria Santos, and 3 months ago I thought I had it all figured out. Marketing director at a Fortune 500 company, corner office, 6-figure salary. But sitting there in the Arizona heat, watching my former colleagues hurry past my car window, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, a strange sense of relief mixed with absolute terror. The universe is listening, my grandmother used to say whenever life threw us curveballs. She'd emigrated from Mexico with nothing but faith and a handful of dreams. "Mija," she'd whisper, "when one door closes, listen for the sound of another opening." I'd always dismissed her words as beautiful poetry. But what happened next would prove that sometimes the most extraordinary transformations begin with the most ordinary moments. That evening, I called my best friend Jessica. "I'm scared, Jess," I admitted, pacing around my Phoenix apartment. "I have maybe 4 months of savings, and the job market is brutal right now." "Maria, honey, maybe this is the universe's way of telling you something," she said gently. "You've been miserable for years. When's the last time you talked about your dream of opening that coffee shop?" My coffee shop. The idea had been brewing in my heart since college, a cozy space where people could connect, where I could serve authentic Mexican coffee and pastries my grandmother taught me to make. But it had always felt like a fantasy, something practical people didn't pursue. "That's not realistic now," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, something inside me stirred. "What if it is?" Jessica asked. "What if this is exactly the right time?" That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about manifestation, a concept I'd heard about but never seriously considered. Around 2 a.m., I found myself Googling law of attraction and stumbled across a video about conscious creation. The speaker talked about how your thoughts create your reality, and suddenly I realized I'd been creating a reality I didn't even want. But what if I could create something different? The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I meditated. Not the kind where you empty your mind completely, but the kind where you get quiet enough to hear what your heart is actually saying. I sat on my little balcony, watching the sunrise paint the desert mountains gold, and I asked myself, what would I create if I knew I couldn't fail? The answer came immediately: a coffee shop that felt like home. I opened my laptop and started researching. Not job applications this time, but coffee shop business plans, commercial real estate, suppliers. With each click, I felt more alive than I had in years. My vibration was shifting. I could actually feel it in my body, like tuning into a radio station that had been fuzzy for too long. That afternoon, I decided to take a drive through different neighborhoods, just to see what was out there. I wasn't looking for anything specific. I was just following my intuition. Synchronicity would soon show me why. I found myself in a part of Phoenix I'd never explored before, a charming area called Heritage Square. As I walked down the tree-lined street, I noticed a "for lease" sign in the window of a corner building. Something made me stop. The space was perfect, not too big, not too small, with huge windows that let in beautiful natural light. I cupped my hands against the glass and peered inside, and I could see it. Not as it was, but as it could be. Rustic wooden tables, plants hanging from the ceiling, the smell of fresh ground coffee and warm conchas filling the air. Beautiful space, isn't it? I turned around to find an older woman with kind eyes and silver hair pulled back in a neat bun. She was walking a small golden retriever. "It really is," I said. "Do you know anything about it?" "I'm Helen, and I own the building," she said with a smile. "I've been looking for the right tenant for months. Most people want to turn it into something flashy, but this space, it needs someone who understands its soul." We talked for 20 minutes right there on the sidewalk. Helen told me about the building's history. It had been a community gathering place for decades. She wasn't just looking for rent money. She wanted someone who would honor the space's purpose. "What would you do with it?" she asked. Without hesitation, I told her about my dream, about the coffee shop, about creating a place where people could slow down and connect, about serving the recipes my grandmother taught me, honoring my heritage while building something new. Helen's eyes lit up. Would you like to see inside? Standing in that empty space, I felt something I can only describe as vibrational alignment. Every cell in my body said, yes. But my logical mind was screaming about my unemployment, my dwindling savings, my complete lack of business experience. I need to think about it, I said, though my heart was already decided. Of course, Helen said, handing me her card. But Maria, let me tell you something. I've been in real estate for 30 years. When someone's energy matches a space like yours does right now, that's not coincidence. That's the universe responding to your intention. That night, I couldn't eat. I kept running numbers, making lists, talking myself out of it. I called my mom, hoping she'd be the voice of reason. Mia, your grandmother would be so proud, she said instead. She always said you had her spirit, the courage to build something from nothing. But Mom, what if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if you don't try and spend the rest of your life wondering what if? She replied. Some risks are worth taking, especially when they're dreams wrapped in fear. I spent the next few days in a strange limbo. Part of me was already designing the menu, choosing paint colors, planning the grand opening. But another part was paralyzed by practical concerns. How would I get funding? What did I know about running a business? What if the coffee shop failed and I ended up worse off than I was now? Then I remembered something from that law of attraction video. Fear and faith cannot coexist in the same space. You have to choose. I made the choice on a Thursday morning. I was doing my new morning routine, meditation, gratitude practice, and visualization, when I had what I can only call a spiritual awakening. I wasn't just seeing my coffee shop anymore. I was feeling it. The warmth of the space, the laughter of customers, the satisfaction of creating something meaningful. I called Helen before I could change my mind. I want the space, I said. I was hoping you'd call, she said. Let's meet this afternoon and work out the details. Helen didn't just rent me the space. She became my first investor. She believed in my vision so strongly that she offered to defer rent for the first 3 months and helped me connect with a local business mentor. When I told her I couldn't possibly accept such generosity, she said something that still gives me chills. Maria, when you're manifesting something that's meant to be, the universe doesn't just give you the dream, it gives you the support to make it real. The next 8 weeks were a whirlwind of conscious creation. Every morning, I started with affirmations. I am building something beautiful. I am worthy of success. I am attracting abundance in all its forms. Some days were harder than others. When the contractor I'd hired disappeared with my deposit, I could have seen it as a sign to quit. Instead, I chose to see it as the universe redirecting me towards something better. That's when I met Carlos, a contractor who specialized in authentic Mexican design elements. He understood my vision immediately and worked within my budget to create something even more beautiful than I'd originally imagined. When I couldn't afford the commercial espresso machine I wanted, I posted about it on social media. Within hours, a local business owner reached out. She was selling the exact machine I needed for half the retail price because she was moving her cafe to a smaller location. Synchronicity after synchronicity kept showing up. The local newspaper wanted to do a story about new small businesses. A food blogger with thousands of followers happened to stop by during a paint day and fell in love with the concept. A mariachi band offered to play at my grand opening for free because they loved the idea of celebrating authentic Mexican culture. But the most meaningful moment came when I was installing the coffee bar. I'd found a piece of reclaimed wood that reminded me of my grandmother's kitchen table, and I decided to use it as the centerpiece. As I was sanding it down, I found something carved into the wood, a small heart with the initials ES inside. Elena Santos, my grandmother's name. I sat there in that dusty, half-finished space and cried. Not from sadness, but from the overwhelming sense that the universe was conspiring to help me succeed. Corazon Coffee opened on a Saturday morning in October. I'd been so nervous I'd barely slept, but the moment I unlocked the door and saw the line of people waiting outside, I knew everything was going to be okay. Helen was my first customer. She ordered a Mexican mocha and one of my grandmother's conchas, then sat in the corner booth for 3 hours, watching me work with a huge smile on her face. By noon, we'd sold out of pastries. By evening, I'd made more money in one day than I'd made in my best week at the corporate job. But the real magic wasn't in the numbers, it was in the connections. I watched strangers become friends over shared tables. I saw a young mother find a peaceful moment while her toddler napped in the stroller. I overheard a business deal being made over Café de Ola, and I witnessed a marriage proposal happen right by the window where I'd first peered in and seen my dream. 6 months later, Corazon Coffee isn't just surviving, it's thriving. We've been featured in Phoenix magazine. We have a loyal group of regulars who feel like family, and I'm already planning to expand our catering services. But the most profound change isn't in my business, it's in me. I wake up every morning excited about the day ahead. I'm attracting abundance not just financially, but in relationships, creativity, and pure joy. I've learned that manifestation isn't about wishing for things to magically appear. It's about aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with what you truly want to create. I think about Dr. Joe Dispenza's teachings about becoming the person you want to be before you have what you want to have. Every morning, I spend time in meditation, feeling into the energy of the successful business owner I'm becoming. I practice gratitude for what I have while holding space for what's still coming. The girl who got fired from her corporate job 8 months ago would barely recognize the woman I am today. She was living someone else's dream, following someone else's path, creating a reality based on fear and limitations. Now I'm living proof that you have the power to create your dream life. You just have to be brave enough to listen when the universe speaks. What amazes me most is how raising my vibration has affected every area of my life. I'm in the best relationship I've ever had, with a man I met at the coffee shop who shares my values and supports my dreams. My family relationships are deeper because I'm finally being authentic about who I am and what I want. I've inspired 3 of my regular customers to pursue their own dreams. One started a food truck, another went back to school, and another left a toxic relationship. That's the thing about conscious creation. When you start living your truth, you give others permission to live theirs. I still have challenges. Running a business is hard work, and there are days when the old fears creep in, but now I have tools to navigate them. When I catch myself spiraling into worry, I remember Abraham Hicks' teaching about focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. I practice visualization, seeing my business growing and thriving. I return to gratitude for how far I've already come. If you're listening to this story and something inside you is stirring, pay attention. That stirring is your soul recognizing its own truth. Maybe you're in a job that drains your energy, or a relationship that doesn't honor who you are, or a city that doesn't feel like home. Maybe you have a dream that feels too big, too risky, too impractical. I'm here to tell you that the universe is always conspiring to help you become who you're meant to be. The signs are everywhere, in the conversation you overhear, in the opportunity that comes disguised as a setback, in the person who appears at exactly the right moment with exactly what you need. But you have to be willing to listen. You have to be willing to trust. You have to be willing to take that first step, even when, especially when, you can't see the whole staircase. Your thoughts create your reality, but your courage creates your future. Standing in Corazon Coffee today, watching the afternoon light stream through those windows I first peered through 8 months ago, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. Not just for the business, but for the journey. For the moment I chose faith over fear. For the people who supported me. For the grandmother whose spirit lives on in every cup of coffee I serve. This is what spiritual awakening really looks like. Not just understanding that you're connected to something greater, but actually living like you believe it. If this story resonates with you, if you feel that familiar stirring in your chest, I want you to know that your dreams are not too big. Your timing is not too late. Your past does not define your future. The universe is listening to every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every action you take. What are you telling it about what you want to create? Maybe it's time to listen to that voice inside you, the one that's been whispering about possibilities, about changes, about dreams that feel too good to be true. Maybe it's time to trust that voice. Maybe it's time to take that first step. Because somewhere out there, your own Corazon Coffee is waiting for you to be brave enough to claim it. If you believe in the power of dreams and the courage to pursue them, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below, I trust my dreams. And if this story inspired you to think differently about your own possibilities, please like this video and subscribe for more stories of transformation and hope. Share it with someone who needs to hear that their dreams matter. Until next time, remember, you are the conscious creator of your own reality. Make it beautiful.